first match of the night. I'm going to go ahead and play first, and this is very reasonable. Hopefully we can cast Narset on turn 3. So when we scry, we're going to be looking for any blue source, a Doom Foretold, a Starfield Mystic. There's a lot of good cards we can find. And as it stands, I do plan on shocking myself with the Hallowed Fountain on turn 2 to probably play Omen of the Sea, hoping to find that blue source for Narset. Narset's really... oh, Starfield Mystic is excellent. So this changes things a little bit. Now the plan is to play the Starfield Mystic on turn 2. And then we'll be able to start double spelling on turn 3 with Omen and Birth. Unless we do hit a blue source naturally, then we can play out Narset. Looks like we may be playing a Temur Reclamation deck. I noticed that the opponent's turn icon seems to be a small flame coming out of my hat. Alright, and they're on to us. They do not want us to start going off with Starfield Mystic. Probably wise. So here, I feel like it's really important that we hit our blue source for Narset. So I'm going to pay 2 life, play the Starfield by tapping the 2 non-blue sources, and then play out an Omen of the Sea. Well, neither of these are blue sources, but both are quite good. I don't think I need the other Omen of the Sea, but I am going to keep Treacherous Blessing. This is a nice way to gain some card advantage early on. Okay, and they continue to bounce our Starfield Mystic, which is slowing us down significantly. There is the blue source that we need. I think the best way to play this is to play out the Mystic, play Birth of Meletus, and then scry. And then next turn we have a couple interesting options. I do really want to try to get that Narset down, but also having a 2-mana draw 3 is really strong. I imagine they'll sack this for a green source here. And a Doom Foretold would be a great draw. Don't really need the second Starfield Mystic. It does start to pressure them, however, because this is going to go away, and that would pump both Mystics. I don't think it's worth it, though. We can do better. So at this point, our best draws include Teferi, which shuts off pretty much their whole game plan, as well as Doom Foretold, which will keep that Wilderness Reclamation off the battlefield. Narset's really good as well if we can resolve it, just because a lot of their cards do draw them extra cards. That's one of the ways this deck operates. So if we can turn off all of their additional card draw, we can really slow them down that way as well. They don't have a lot of direct ways to deal with Narset. They have maybe a couple copies of Storm's Wrath. But if they take a turn off to Storm's Wrath, that gives us a little bit more time that we're not worrying about the Wilderness Reclamation. Alright, this feels like maybe Wilderness Reclamation is coming down here. And if that's the case, we just have to really hope... okay, an Uro instead. That's much less scary. Oh, and they are pinched on lands. So, very interesting here. They have a blue mana untapped. So, I really do want to play Narset. The problem is that might get Mystical Disputed. If that's the case, we can still then play out Treacherous Blessing, however, so I think it's worth trying. Alright, and we'll draw 3 more cards. It's possible I should have led with Doom Foretold there, let that resolve, and then just play Treacherous Blessing. That puts pressure on them in a different way. Next turn, though, we can start playing out a Doom Foretold and another Mythic. And I actually like that sequence because now there's no way they can stop this from happening. It's possible Dream Trawler would have also been very good there. I like just getting rid of the Wilderness Reclamation. They could potentially flash in a Brazen Borrower, but that's going to take up the bulk of their turn. And we have 2 major threats, as well as another Doom Foretold on top. So if they flash in the Borrower here, they have no real opportunity to draw an additional land on their turn with something like a Growth Spiral or an Uro. And this deck is not particularly dangerous when stuck on 4 lands. It's really dangerous when they start untapping multiple lands. So here it looks like maybe a really small Expansion Explosion or flashing in something else. Okay, there's the Growth Spiral. Go ahead and get rid of the Treacherous Blessing here, pumping our Starfield Mythic. And I think it makes sense to attack first. Because of exactly Mystical Dispute, I'm inclined to simply play out another Doom Foretold here. We're not in a rush to land a Dream Trawler. And this will give us the ability to Dance of the Mance for a ton next turn if they do something. And if they do nothing, then we can just pressure them with what we have on the board. Yeah, one of the nice things about playing against the the Temur Reclamation deck is they don't really play to the board very much, so Doom Foretold tends to be very effective. And their only real answer to it is to bounce it with a Brazen Borrower, but they actually use their Brazen Borrowers already. So I'm going to keep this Omen out so that we can sacrifice it. And I'm going to go ahead and get in there for 7. Okay. They've seen enough. Mystical Disputes and Aether Gusts are very good. Oftentimes they'll switch into a package where they're bringing in, for example, Legion Warboss. So you want to be careful about just getting rid of all of your early interaction. Scrabbling Claws is interesting because of exactly the Uros. I think it's probably good enough. And Dovin's Veto as a hard counter is also quite good. So this looks like the things that I would like to bring in. What can we cut? I think it's okay to get rid of at least 1 Wrath and both Birth of Meletus. And the more expensive spells are harder to resolve, so I might be okay trimming 1 Elspeth Conquers Death here. And then 1 Oath of Kaya can go. Again, we want to keep some interaction for things like Legion Warboss. We don't want to get totally caught off guard by that card. And there's 3 more cards we'll need to cut here. I like having access to 1 Wrath. Let's trim 1 Treacherous Blessing, 1 Oath of Kaya, and 1 Omen of the Sea. So this breaks our synergy up a little bit, but we have access to all of the important effects still, and with a lot of scrying and the ability to go through quite a bit of our library, I think it's nice to not totally rule yourself out of something like the Kaya's Wrath, for example. Because if they land the Nightpack Ambusher or a Legion War Boss and it is allowed to survive for a couple turns, that's really our only way out. So I think it's important to keep those in. One thing that's nice about the Scrabbling Claws is they synergize pretty well with our Dance of the Manse plan. Alright, well this is a turn 3 Doom Foretold, which I will pretty much never mulligan. I'm going to lead with Island, just because it gives them the least information and it keeps up Mystical Dispute. Also, Teferi is the best card in this matchup, so having that as our first top deck feels really nice. Okay, the Robber of the Rich plan is in effect. Let's see what they're able to draw. I'm just hitting the land there. Let me go ahead and get the Starfield Mystic down. Interesting here, I could consider trading. The only card that I have is Doom Foretold that would benefit, and we can play Teferi instead. So I am actually going to trade off here, just an easy way to get rid of that Robber of the Rich. And this is our first really interesting decision. I would love to play Teferi, but there's a good chance they can counter it. I think I'm going to go for it on the next turn. And I'm actually going to shock here, because this keeps up both Dovin's Veto and Mystical Dispute. Yeah, I don't want to run Teferi into a Mystical Dispute if I don't have to. So here we can counter essentially anything, because we do have full mana Mystical Dispute up. Alright, so now, unfortunately, it seems like they have Mystical Dispute. So that if we Teferi, they can dispute, we'll dispute back, but they can pay for it. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this opportunity to scry. And again, I have the ability to counter basically anything they're doing on this turn. If they play something like a Growth Spiral, I think we have to let that resolve. Although, actually, I take that back, because we can Mystical Dispute this and still have Dovin's Veto up. And I like getting value from the Mystical Dispute. And then we're approaching where we're going to be able to double spell with a Dovin's Veto up. So probably here we are running Teferi out, taking up and keeping up Dovin's Veto. Alright, and the question is whether we want to Dovin's Veto or Mystical Dispute. I think we want a Mystical Dispute because the Dovin's Veto is so much more versatile.
I'm known for my excellent timing.
In that it's going to be good throughout the game.
This might be a bad idea.
And unless they have another green source in Wilderness Reclamation, I feel like we're in pretty good shape here. They could potentially Brazen Borrower the Teferi. But the fact that they did not do it on their turn means they can no longer do that. So they're just going to be scrying here. Let's pay 2 life, Doom Foretold, and keep up Dovin's Veto with the idea of Treacherous Blessing on the next turn. And the fact that we have Dovin's Veto at the ready means that we're in pretty good shape here, pretty much for anything they can do. So they did keep 1 on top. It'll be interesting to see which one that was. They can also just bring back Uro here, but we have the Kaya's Wrath to deal with that. I will probably get greedy and Treacherous Blessing first. Putney, it is just you. This is not a scheduled stream. I just decided to fire it up because, you know, COVID-19, lots of free time. So welcome to the stream. I'm streaming just for you. And don't really want to let them draw any additional cards, so I'm going to counter that. Go ahead and Treacherous Blessing. It's not that wild, Putney. How you been? Have you been staying in as well, or what's the deal with your work situation? Get a little greedy here. This does open me up to Storm's Wrath, but I think building up huge card advantage is worth it. Alright, well, as long as you're getting paid, because that's the scary thing for a lot of people. Are you doing some writing? Yeah, it seems like oh, you gotta get on that. Set some writing time into your schedule. That's what I'm gonna be doing. I gotta work on my book. Yeah, good call. In the meantime, I'll just be refining my pet deck and trying to pick on all of the Temur Reclamation out there. I'm gonna omen at the end of their turn, see if they have a follow-up to this. Alright, what do they hit? Starfield Mystic. Well, let's get rid of this. And then if they want to Dovin's Veto my Omen, they can, but they just cast the Starfield. Oh, Narset is awesome. And actually, Omen of the Sea to find some more action is also really good. Start with Narset and then Wrath.
I train everything. I have just the trick for this.
Grab an Aether Gust here.
I've got it.
So they've got one turn to do something. And they can't even draw additional cards, so that helps quite a bit. Alright. Start with Narset.
Just wait a moment. Meditate.
And we'll just play a ton of Doom Foretold. LA is pretty much on lockdown, isn't it? All the bars and restaurants are totally closed. Dance of the Manse is a good one. Actually, I'm gonna tick this up to stay out of Storm's Wrath, just totally punishing us.
Don't worry, I got this.
Yeah, takeout only. At least they're doing that. Give the restaurant some business and take a little of the strain off the grocery stores. Alright, and it feels like this is a good time to win with a giant Dance of the Manse.
Let's try this.
And then we do have Aether Gust if they have a large expansion explosion. So it feels important not to play out this Omen of the Sea. Yeah, the Sultai ramp decks are fun, but I don't know if I'm ever going to have as much fun as just bringing back a ton of 4/4 enchantment creatures.